Member of the royal family has always been one of the sweetest gigs you can have. You get an unlimited budget for hats, there's always free crumpets in the break room, and let's be honest, most of your job is just...
Hey folks, the delicate dance between a royal, even a renegade post-royal one, and a late-night television host is a carefully choreographed performance. It is built on a foundation of mutual benefit. The guest receives a prestigious platform to promote their wares, and the host receives a dose of A-list glamour and a conversation that, while often light, carries the whiff of global significance. But when the guest is Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and the host is Trevor Noah, the master of disarming razor-sharp wit delivered with a disarming smile, the potential for the carefully constructed facade to be gently, hilariously punctured is immensely high. In one unforgettable segment, the delicate dance became a masterclass in comedy as Noah, with the precision of a surgeon and the charm of an old friend, delivered a series of zingers that left the audience roaring and the Duchess herself reeling between laughter and what appeared to be moments of stunned, self-aware recognition. The setting was the promotion of Meghan's podcast, Archetypes, a project dedicated to dissecting and dismantling the labels that hold women back. It was serious subject matter, the kind Meghan delivers with an intense, almost therapeutic earnestness. Please do well to subscribe to the channel, thank you. Noah, however, possesses the unique ability to explore profound truths through the vehicle of laughter, and he immediately identified the rich comedic ore buried in the very premise of a former royal who willingly entered the most label-obsessed institution in the world, now making it her mission to free others from those same constraints. With a grin that promised no malice, only mischief, he launched his first playful volley. He wondered aloud, with impeccable timing, about the irony of her escaping one gilded cage of archetypes, the palace, only to build her own media empire in California to talk about them. The audience erupted. It was the observation countless people had made in living rooms and on social media, but never with such charm into the subject's face. Meghan's reaction was a fascinating study, a genuine laugh, followed by a millisecond of wide-eyed surprise, as if the sheer audacity and accuracy of the observation had momentarily short-circuited her prepared talking points. This was Noah's genius at work. He wasn't attacking, he was reflecting. He held up a mirror to the inherent contradictions of her journey, not to condemn her for them, but to revel in their absurdity. He then pivoted to the heart of the royal paradox, focusing on the peculiarities she would have encountered. In a bit that will live in late-night infamy, he delved into the concept of royal protocol with the bewildered hilarity of a man from Soweto trying to make sense of it all. He painted a picture of a bewildered Meghan, being tutored on the art of royal walking, sitting, and waving. Don't wave with your whole arm, just the wrist. A full arm wave is for helicopters, not for peasants, he quipped, demonstrating a frantic, panicked royal wave that brought the house down. He then landed the killer blow, a zinger so perfectly aimed it seemed to hang in the air. You mean to tell me you have to practice sitting? What happens if you sit wrong? Does an alarm go off? Breach of protocol at the sofa. The beauty of this moment was its universality. Noah was giving voice to the global audience's perpetual bafflement at the anachronistic rituals of monarchy. He was every commoner watching, and in doing so, he momentarily stripped the institution of its imposing grandeur, reducing it to a series of ridiculous, arbitrary rules. Meghan, caught in the crossfire of this comedic deconstruction, was both his accomplice and his subject. She laughed, she nodded, she played along, but one could sense the sheer surrealism of the moment washing over her. This was her life being distilled into a 5-minute comedy routine, and the accuracy was both liberating and utterly bizarre. Noah, however, is never content with just surface-level jokes. His finest moments come when he uses humor as a Trojan horse for sharper commentary. He seamlessly transitioned from mocking royal protocol to highlighting the stark and often hypocritical disparities Meghan faced. He joked about the media's hysterical reaction to her avocado toast, framing it as a symbol of global inequality with a punchline. "You're causing human rights violations with your breakfast," he declared, nailing the absurd intensity of the scrutiny she was under. In doing so, he didn't just make the audience laugh, he made them understand the suffocating madness of it all. He was on her side, but he was doing it by mocking the entire ecosystem, including, by gentle extension, her decision to enter it. The segment's most revealing moment came when the conversation turned to the infamous curtsy Meghan had to perform for Queen Elizabeth II upon their first meeting. Noah's eyes lit up with comic possibility. He turned it into a full-blown theatrical scene, imagining a frantic Prince Harry in the car beforehand, desperately coaching her. No, not that deep, a little shallower. Think of a nod, but with your knees. He then got out of his chair and attempted his own deeply uncoordinated, disastrously exaggerated curtsy, a physical comedy bit that left the audience breathless. Through the laughter, he made a profound point: the sheer, dehumanizing performance required to be deemed acceptable by this ancient system. Meghan watched this, her hand over her mouth, howling with laughter. But it was the laughter of recognition. It was the laugh of someone finally seeing their own most surreal and stressful experience validated and transformed into collective catharsis. She was reeling, not from offense, but from the relief of having her story told not as a soap opera or a political statement, but as a universally relatable human comedy of errors.
Don't forget, he's a prince, okay? So to him, she's not the Queen of England in her palace. She's just granny in her house with the grandma smell, all right? I mean, we do have paparazzi, it's just they don't have cameras. Yeah. It's just the guy running after you like, I saw you, I saw you, I saw you, I saw you again, I saw you, I saw you. Hurry, look at what you are wearing. I'm going to tell everybody, yeah? Wait, hold up. Their third date was to Botswana? I mean, normally on a third date, you might go to Red Lobster, but for a royal, you go to an entire African country? Wow. And he me good, I take his ass to Botswana.
The global fascination with the saga of Harry and Meghan is a peculiar modern phenomenon, a sprawling, real-life epic that blends Shakespearean family drama with the glossy, self-aware production values of a Netflix documentary. It is a story often told with breathless gravity, either as a tragic tale of persecution or a scandalous narrative of betrayal, leaving little room for nuance. That is, until Trevor Noah, the master alchemist of late-night television, gets his hands on it. With the keen eye of a cultural translator and the disarming charm of a man who finds absurdity in everything, Noah doesn't just report on the Sussexes, he refines their entire operatic struggle into pure, undeniable comedy gold, offering the world something it desperately needed in the midst of the partisan bickering: a collective laugh. Noah's genius lies in his point of entry. He approaches the Windsor Civil War not as a royal commentator or a biographer, but as a bewildered outsider from South Africa for whom the entire concept of monarchy is inherently riotously funny. He begins not with the allegations, but with the premise itself. In one masterful segment, he imagines the moment Meghan Markle, a successful American actress who grew up in a world of agency and ambition, was first introduced to the arcane rules of royal life. He paints a picture of a frantic Prince Harry conducting last-minute protocol training in the back of a Bentley. Okay, remember, the wave. It's not a hello wave, it's a I acknowledge your existence wave, Noah says, demonstrating a stiff mechanical wrist flick that perfectly captures the bizarre performativity of it all. And the curtsy. You have to practice the curtsy. He then leaps from his host's chair to deliver a physically comedic masterpiece. A deep, wobbly, and utterly disastrous attempt at a bow that leaves the audience in stitches. The joke works because it's not mean-spirited. It's rooted in a universal truth. He is giving voice to every commoner's perplexity at the idea that someone must be taught how to sit, wave, or bow correctly to be considered worthy. He then trains his sights on the media's hysterical overreactions, transforming toxic headlines into punchlines. He takes the most ludicrous stories, the outrage over Meghan's avocado toast allegedly fueling human rights abuses, or the scandal of her closing her own car door, and weaponizes them with sarcasm so thick you could stand a spoon in it. She closed her own car door, Noah exclaims, his voice dripping with mock horror. What's next? Tying her own shoes, making her own bed. This is anarchy. This is the downfall of civilization as we know it. By amplifying the insanity to its logical extreme, he exposes the profound silliness and the deeply embedded misogyny and racism that often underpins the criticism. He doesn't need to deliver a lecture. His laughter is the lecture. He invites his audience to step back and see the entire media circus for what it often is, a clown show. Perhaps Noah's most brilliant comedic turn is his take on Prince Harry's own revelations, particularly those from his memoir, Spare. With a twinkle in his eye, Noah zeroes in on the now infamous frostbite anecdote. The man fought in Afghanistan, but his greatest battle was against a frostbitten member? He asks, letting the absurdity hang in the air for maximum effect. He imagines the ghost of Prince Philip looking down, utterly bewildered by his grandson's priorities. Yet, even here, Noah's humor is layered. He isn't simply mocking mocking Harry, he is highlighting the surreal disconnect between the image of a hardened military veteran and the reality of a man who seems trapped in a cycle of oversharing, a prince who traded a sword for a therapy couch and doesn't seem to know which is more powerful. What makes Noah's commentary so effective and frankly necessary is his ability to remain an equal opportunity observer. He is never fully Team Sussex nor Team Windsor. His loyalty is to the joke, and the joke is that everyone in this saga is behaving in ways that are, from a certain perspective, completely ridiculous. He pokes fun at Harry and Meghan's seemingly bottomless appetite for public revelation, despite their fierce demands for privacy, noting the irony of launching a multi-platform media empire to complain about a lack of peace and quiet. Simultaneously, he lampoons the ancient crumbling institution of the monarchy for its baffling refusal to adapt, for choosing to die on hills like curtsy depth and car door etiquette. He positions himself as the only sane person in the room, a neutral Swiss diplomat whose peace offering is a punchline. In the end, Trevor Noah's hilarious dissection of the Harry and Meghan drama does more than just entertain. It performs a vital public service.
Meghan are leaving the palace to become financially independent. And you see, this is what happens when you bring the first black woman into the royal family. Yeah, she looked at Harry and she was like, "Nigga, you need to get a job. You a grown-ass man. You can't still be living in your mama's house."
Mere moments ago, a seismic wave of laughter erupted from a television studio and immediately cascaded across social media, as Trevor Noah, in a masterclass of comedic timing and incisive wit, delivered a brutal, hilarious, and utterly mesmerizing roast of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, live on his show. The segment, undoubtedly destined for the Late Night Hall of Fame, was not an attack born of malice, but a surgical dissection conducted with a smiling charm so effective that even the subject of the jokes, sitting across from him, was caught between shock and involuntary laughter. For the audience at home and in the studio, the reaction was instantaneous and unified. An inability to stop laughing, not just at the jokes, but at the sheer audacious truth of them. The setup was deceptively simple, a promotional interview for Meghan's latest venture, a brand extension of her Archetypes podcast. The atmosphere was warm, friendly even, but Noah, a predator of absurdity disguised as a talk show host, senses vulnerability not as a weakness to be exploited, but as a rich vein of comedic ore to be mined. He began not with a joke, but with a seemingly innocent question about her life of immense privilege in Montecito, a life she has meticulously framed as her happy ending after the trials of royal life. Then, with the smile of a mischievous friend, he unleashed his first volley. "So Meghan, you left one of the most powerful families in the world because you wanted privacy, and your solution was to start a podcast, do a Netflix documentary, and write a book." The pause that followed was electric, the audience's roar of laughter punctuated by the sight of Meghan's eyes widening a fraction, a split second of stunned recognition before her impeccably trained media persona clicked back into place with a gracious chuckle. It was the laugh of someone who just felt the pin pop the balloon, but is too polite to acknowledge the mess. Noah, now in his element, was just warming up. He pivoted to the very concept of her work, dissecting labels and stereotypes with the playful glee of a mathematician who has just found a fatal flaw in a long-standing theorem. "I find it so fascinating," he continued, leaning forward as if sharing a conspiracy, "that you, a woman who voluntarily walked into the most stereotypical box in human history, a princess, are now the one trying to break all the boxes for everyone else." The joke landed with the force of a sledgehammer wrapped in velvet. It was the observation that millions had made, but that no one had ever dared to articulate directly to her, on camera, with a billion-dollar smile. He wasn't condemning her. He was simply highlighting the breathtaking irony of her journey, holding up a mirror so clear and so accurate that the reflection was both shocking and uproariously funny. Then came the kill shot, the moment that will be clipped and replayed for years to come. Addressing the perennial victim narrative that surrounds the Sussexes, Noah adopted a look of profound mock confusion. "Help me understand this," he pleaded with the audience, now his co-conspirators. "You left the UK because the press was too brutal. You come to America where the press is famously kind and gentle." A line that drew howls of knowing laughter. "And your first move is to declare war on the entire American media establishment. Meghan, my love, your bravery is confusing." The studio erupted. It was a brutal, flawless piece of logic. He had taken the central pillar of her public identity, her battle against oppressive media, and exposed the fundamental strategic Paradox at its heart. He painted a picture not of a calculated media strategist, but of a woman who seems to gravitate toward conflict with the very forces she claims to want to escape. What made the roast so devastatingly effective was its delivery. This was not the cold, cynical mockery of a comic like Ricky Gervais. This was Trevor Noah, the charming, empathetic everyman, using humor as a tool of truth-telling. His smile never faded. His tone remained that of a curious friend trying to understand a baffling life choice. This approach left Meghan with no defensible ground. She couldn't get angry without looking thin-skinned and confirming his implicit point about her relationship with criticism. She couldn't rebut without launching into a defensive monologue that would shatter the light tone of the show. Her only option was to laugh along, to become a spectator at her own roast, and in doing so, she tacitly endorsed the very jokes that were deconstructing her worldview. The fans, as the headline declared, truly could not stop laughing. On social media, clips of the segment spread like wildfire, accompanied by captions like, "He said what we were all thinking," and finally, someone said it. The laughter was born from a place of catharsis. For years, the conversation around Harry and Meghan has been polarized into rigid, hostile camps. To question their narrative was to be branded a racist or a monarchist stooge. Trevor Noah, with his unimpeachable credentials as a progressive and his global perspective, bypassed this tribal warfare entirely. He granted permission for a mass audience to step back from the moralizing and simply acknowledge the sheer, unadulterated absurdity of the entire situation.
Losing their titles? That's the most embarrassing royal loss since William's hairline. Queen has announced that Harry and Meghan can no longer describe themselves as royal. And I won't lie, if I was Harry and Meghan, I'll be like, fine, then we'll be known as Royale.
The carefully constructed narrative of the Sussexes, a global saga of liberation and trauma, of principled flight and self-made success, is a story so powerful and so pervasive that it has often felt immune to critique. To question its tenets is to risk being labeled an enemy of progress or a stooge of the ancient regime. It requires a specific kind of alchemist, one who can transmute uncomfortable truths into disarming laughter to pierce that bubble. On a recent evening, Trevor Noah, the master of this very craft, did not merely tell a joke, he detonated a cultural bombshell live on television, holding a mirror up to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's carefully curated world and allowing the audience to roar with recognition at the reflection. He didn't just expose Meghan Markle, he exposed the underlying absurdity of their entire post-royal project, and in doing so, gave voice to the silent skepticism of millions. The moment was as brutal as it was brilliant. With the charming smile of a friend sharing a conspiratorial observation, Noah reframed the entire Sussex exit, not as Megxit, but as something far more mundane and hilariously relatable. He painted a picture of a domestic scene in a Frogmore Cottage kitchen, imagining Meghan looking at a prince who had never held a conventional job, never worried about a mortgage, and never comprehended the concept of a credit score, and delivering a line that would make any sitcom writer proud. "You need to get a job." The studio audience didn't just chuckle, they erupted in a wave of sharp, cathartic laughter that felt less like amusement and more like a collective release of pent-up tension. It was the sound of a guilty secret being confessed aloud. Noah's genius was in taking a story sold as a high-minded flight for freedom and mental peace, and revealing its underpinnings as a shockingly ordinary and emasculating scenario of a partner being told it was time to start pulling his financial weight. This was the masterstroke, by framing Harry not as a brave co-rebel, but as a pampered prince being led out of the palace by his ear and into the job market. Noah performed a devastating act of comedic deflation. The grand romantic narrative of sacrifice for love crumbled, replaced by the image of a bewildered aristocrat being introduced to the concept of a W-2 form. The joke worked because it was anchored in a fundamental truth everyone recognizes but few dare to articulate, that Harry's entire existence before and after Meghan is predicated on the wealth and privilege of the institution he claims to reject. The laughter was indeed a form of judgment, a collective acknowledgement that the emperor, or in this case, the prince, has no clothes, and that his new life in Montecito is just a different, more commercially leveraged kind of gilded cage. But Noah was only getting started. This opening salvo was merely the premise for a deeper, more incisive dissection of the Sussex brand. The true expose lay in what followed, a hilarious yet merciless deconstruction of the couple's paradoxical relationship with privacy and media. With the timing of a seasoned prosecutor, Noah highlighted the breathtaking contradiction of fleeing the UK paparazzi only to willingly install Netflix documentary crews in one's backyard and to sit for an Oprah primetime special that reached tens of millions. "You left because of the media," he reiterated, his face a perfect mask of mock confusion. "And your solution was to give the media more media." The joke, once again, was a vehicle for a devastatingly accurate critique. It exposed the central, irreconcilable flaw in their victimhood narrative, the fact that their entire global platform and financial security is built upon the very media exposure they claim is toxic. This wasn't standard late-night fluff, it was a takedown masquerading as monologue material. Noah, with his unique position as a global outsider who understands Western obsessions, skillfully peeled back the glamour of their royal rebellion to reveal what looks to many like a shrewd and at times cynical business enterprise. He turned their profound talk of healing and advocacy into a punchline about content creation, subtly questioning whether their mission is truly about helping others or about helping themselves to lucrative deals and maintaining global relevance. The audience's wild reaction was a testament to the power of seeing this unspoken thought articulated so perfectly and so publicly. Trevor Noah's hilarious expose was significant not because it was mean-spirited, but because it was truthful. It was comedy operating at its highest level, as a tool for social commentary and critical analysis. He used laughter to bypass the polarized, toxic debates that usually surround the Sussexes, and went straight for the underlying absurdities that defy any logical defense. He gave viewers permission to stop analyzing every move through the lens of trauma or misogynoir, and to simply see the situation for what it often appears to be, a spectacular, often baffling, and deeply ironic performance. By tearing their curated image to shreds with jokes, not jabs, he didn't just entertain, he enlightened, proving that sometimes the most profound truth is delivered not with a solemn report, but with a punchline that makes the entire world gasp and laugh in unison. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please do not forget to leave your thought in the comment section. See you next time. Thank you for watching.